video for you. But if you're like me and you love thinking about your life and analyzing yourself to the point of self-destruction, then you're probably going to love this video. So, that being said, just one quick thing before we get started. I know how these videos usually go. You probably do too, if you've seen any, which I'm sure you have. But I am not the type of guy to sit here after I ask you a question and pretend that you're actually talking back to me and responding. Just the thought of that makes me feel like a sociopath. So, I'm probably going to end up answering the questions I ask you myself as well. So, we might be talking over each other a bit, but we are both going to get to know each other tonight. And now that I've said that, I am going to start firing away because I made a list of questions that I've been wanting to ask you. And now I've got you right here in front of me. So put your thinking cap on because we're getting started. The first question that I have for you is, if you and I were in a room right now, just the two of us, and I gave you a speaker, and I asked you to play just one song for me, what would you pick? What song would you play for me? And you can only play one. Don't ask me why. That's just the situation we're in. You have one chance to show me the kind of person you are in the form of a melody and some lyrics. So what are you going to play for me? If I were in your situation and I had to play a song for you, I would play Summer by Calvin Harris. And the reason is purely because it's the greatest song of all time, and it just elicits some of my best childhood and even recent adulthood memories. But this isn't about me, so pretend I can read your mind and pick the song that you would play for me and say it to yourself in your head. And now that you've got your answer, I am going to give you one more song that I would pick because I am a freak and I can't adhere to the rules of my own game, and I want to pick one more. I would also probably pick Don't Break My Heart by The Weeknd. I just wanted to say that because it's not as popular of a song, and I feel like an NPC just giving you a Calvin Harris song. So that was for my bunch of these moments from my childhood, but I am thinking of a more recent example right now, which was when I showed my friends and my family this video that I made on a trip that I took to San Diego this past summer with 3 of my best friends. And without going too far into detail, I worked really hard on this video, and it was basically just a vlog of our trip, and it kind of had a little story tied into it. And when I got to show it to my friends and family and bring them into this incredible and nostalgic experience that I had, and I got to watch their reactions to certain clips and the songs that I picked and the emotions that the video brought out, I just felt so fulfilled and, incredible. I felt so gratified. I think that's the right word. I really find the most meaning in my life from documenting it and sharing it with others. It's just the thing that makes me feel like all the struggles and uncertainty that I go through, and conversely, all the beautiful moments that I experience are worth it and that they have a meaning. So, sorry I went all deep on you there, but that is one of my happiest moments in recent memory. But you can pick anything you want. And I think at this point, you've probably got an answer. So I will move on to the third question. Do you think you'll ever have a happier day than the moment you just thought of? And I want you to really think about this, because my gut response is no. But that's kind of depressing to think about. So, if you don't think that you'll ever have a happier day than that, why is that? Because I know I'm still getting to know you, but I think you've got a lot of life left to live, and wow, if you're like me, you might be experiencing a lot of confusion and stress right now. There are still so many opportunities to experience different people and relationships and places and stages of your life. So, when do you think you are going to feel that level of happiness again? Not if, but when. Give me a short answer to that, and then we'll move on to a different topic. My next question is about love and romance. Because if you've seen any of my other videos, you would know that I am obsessed with love. So, my question to you is, what is a deal breaker for you in a relationship? What is one thing, or what are multiple things, if you have multiple answers, that you just can't stand for? And I'm going to challenge you to not give me the typical, oh, they cheated on me, or they committed a serious felony, or they, I don't know, they hit an animal, something horrible. What's something a little more nuanced that's specific to you that you would not allow in a relationship? relationship? Mine isn't. I'll give you two answers. My first one is a little more broad, but I really don't like when people are disrespectful, especially to their friends or family. But it really applies to anybody. I think a lot of people say, if you're on a date with somebody and they're mean to the waiter, that's like one of the biggest red flags you can find. And I think that's true, but I don't like the idea of somebody being mean to somebody who is actually their friend or somebody who you can tell cares about them. That just feels wrong. Luckily, my girlfriend is not that type of person at all. But I did have one more deal breaker, and that would be if she vaped. If my girlfriend vaped, I would probably have to throw in the towel. I don't have anything against vaping. Okay, that's a lie. Clearly I do. I guess what I'm trying to say is if you vape, whatever. I seriously, I don't give a fuck. You do you. It's just not for me. So, I hope you were able to come up with at least one or two answers. And if not, I guess you're gonna have to find them out the hard way. So, good luck. But let's move on to the next question, which is, if I gave you $1 million right now, what would be the first thing you would buy? And I'm gonna ask you to be a little creative on this one. I don't want to hear anything about investing in real estate. I don't want to hear anything about paying off student loans or debt, credit card debt. I don't want to hear any of that. That's not exciting. That's not cool. It might be the financially responsible decision, but that's not what we're doing right now. So give me something cool. I would probably buy this excruciatingly nice camera that I can't even remember the name of. I think it's called the Sony RS3. And I've been watching YouTube videos that were filmed with it lately, and I feel like I'm literally in the place the video is being filmed at. And I just love that, so that's a few $1,000s. So it's not that expensive, but that's probably the first thing I would get. But it's not about me. I want to know what you would buy. The second thing I would buy would probably be a new light to put on top of my camera, because this one above you right now is hanging on by a thread, and it's starting to piss me off. So we might be making an investment in the channel soon over here. So I'm sure you picked something by now, and it better not have been something boring. I'm gonna trust that you picked something cool. So let's move on. My next personal question for you is, what qualities does your dream partner have? So it's the opposite of the question I asked you a couple of minutes ago. Now I want to know what kinds of things you absolutely want your future partner to have. Maybe they are great at baking, or they're ambitious and they go to the gym, or they love reading like you do, or they situation that you come from and you want to be with somebody that has had a similar upbringing to you. Maybe they love the same kind of music as you. Maybe they are great with kids. Maybe they don't want kids. There are a million different answers to this question, but I just want to know yours. So give me a few qualities you want that perfect person in your life to have. I'm going to take a sip of water and give you a chance to think for another second. Okay, time is up. I hope you have crafted your perfect person in your head. But I want you to push those thoughts to the side because I have another question for you. What would you say is your love language? If you don't remember all 5 of them, which is always the case with me, I'm going to list them out. Physical touch, acts of service, quality time, words of affirmation, or receiving gifts. Which one of those 5 just lights you up like no other? For me, I used to say it was physical touch. I love being in contact with my girlfriend, but I think honestly I'm starting to switch over to acts of service. Because whenever somebody does something for you that either you didn't ask them to do or that you didn't expect them to do, I feel like that's just such a clear and strong sign that they really care for you. And this is just my opinion, so don't listen to me, and you shouldn't be, because you're supposed to be thinking of your own answer right now. But physical touch, I feel like it's a little more surface level. I know that it's an important part of a deep and lasting connection, but lately? Next question. Do you have a certain phrase or mantra that you live your life by? Is there a specific quote, or maybe even just word or two, that you always remind yourself of when you get in a stressful moment, or when you're feeling upset or uncertain about things? What do you tell yourself when things feel like they aren't going right? Because personally, that always feels like when I have to remind myself of my quote, which I came up with myself, kind of. But mine is, think less, more life. Think less, more life. And it's pretty self-explanatory. I am a chronic overthinker. I just have a really bad habit of completely debilitating myself with thoughts that run rampant, and I internalize everything, and I get lost in my head a lot. So I very regularly find myself saying that phrase, think less, more life. Because the less that I worry about shit, the more present I am, and the more I just enjoy my life, and the more things I actually go and do, because I'm not asking myself if they're good for me or not, or if they're worth investing my time in, or if I'm going to regret them. I just stop thinking and I go do them, and that's how I find out. But there are an infinite number of pieces of wisdom or little mantras and phrases that people can use to get through their lives, and I want to know what yours are. Maybe you have a few, and if you do, I want you to think of all of them and remind yourself of them if you haven't recently. And when you're done with that, I want you to answer my next question. This is a nice, lighthearted one. Do you want kids? Do you want to reproduce and raise offspring on this planet? And if so, how many do you want? And if you said no, why not? When I was younger, I used to look at adults that didn't have kids, or even families that only had one kid, and I'd be like, what the fuck? Why don't you have kids? Or why don't you have more kids? What are you doing? And that's purely because I come from a big family. But truthfully, and I feel like this is controversial to say, depending on who you're talking to, but I kind of get why some people don't want to have kids. When you get older and you have less and less free time and more obligations, I don't even know how the fuck you're supposed to make the time for a kid. Not to mention the fact that for a lot of people, getting into a relationship is a very difficult thing to do, and even if you manage to do that, staying in a healthy one is also really hard. So oftentimes, it's really not even about having a kid at all. It's almost entirely about the person that you're with and the kind of lifestyle that you have and how much money you make and how much time you have. not just do you want to have a kid or not. So, where do you fall on that spectrum? Because I also think it's okay if you don't know yet. I think it's a tough decision, and one of those things that you might never be 100% certain on. And at some point you might just have to take the risk. Yeah, that's a real fun question. I've got just a couple more, and then we are going to call it a night. My next question for you is... Hold on, I gotta restart my camera actually. There we go. We're gonna go job interview style here. What are 3 words you would use to describe yourself? The reason I wanted to ask this, because I know it's a pretty common question if you are literally trying to get a job or doing a college application or something, is because I have a hard time being positive about myself. I'm not saying that to be like, oh my god, my life is so sad, I'm so broken, help. I just don't like gassing myself up. So whenever I get asked this question, I legitimately struggle with it. Because I have a tendency to think of the things that I want to fix, not the things that I think are good about myself. And whenever you're asked this question, it is probably in a situation where you want to give a good answer because you want to get the job or get into the school or whatever. So, I want you to give me 3 positive adjectives about yourself, and I'll give you mine. I would say I am creative, introspective, and funny. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I'm funny. And again, that feels like bragging to me, but I really hope I'm funny, because if I'm not funny, then I am nothing in this world. So, those are mine. But I want you to think of yours and say them to yourself. And maybe it'll be a nice reminder that there are some great things about you. So, you're welcome. I'm joking. Now, my last question is the one that I struggle with the most. So, I am going to make my problems yours and ask it to you. My final question is, do you think you have a true calling in life? Do you feel like you have a purpose? And at this moment, do you think you know what that purpose is? We might actually end up sitting in silence here for a couple seconds because that question still stumps me to this day. Some days, I swear, I have it all figured out, and I know exactly how I want my life to go, and who I want to be in it, and where I want to end up. And other days, I feel like I just got dropped into a fresh server on Minecraft with no resources or tools or knowledge of the world around me, and I have no fucking clue where to start. So, what do you think you were put on this earth to do? Or do you think that's a stupid question, and that we can never really know the answer to that, and that you don't have to have a reason for being here, and that you might just be here to exist? Because just here to enjoy life and experience the world, and that I shouldn't put so much pressure on myself to figure out why I'm here or what I need to do. And truthfully, sometimes I agree with that. And I think that I might fixate a little bit too much on figuring out my quote-unquote calling or purpose. So, I want to know what you think about that, because that is one of my favorite questions to ask people and one of my favorite conversations to have. And I would love to know your thoughts down below if you made it this far. And I mean that. I'm not just trying to get people to comment. I love hearing people's opinion on that, and I don't feel like I have a fully fleshed out answer, so I like knowing what other people think, and I like seeing if there's anything I can take away from other people. And I think you have a good answer, so I'd love to hear it if you have one. But with that, I am officially out of questions for the night. So maybe we will run this back another time, but I've enjoyed getting to know you a bit better, and I hope you were able to, I don't know, come up with some good responses and maybe remind yourself of something you had forgotten, or maybe you had some crazy life